Here's something that most people get completely wrong. They hear that fruit contains sugar and they assume that eating a bowl of blueberries is basically the same as drinking a can of soda. Both have glucose. Both taste sweet. So what is the real difference? The answer to that question sits at the center of one of the most important conversations in modern nutrition science. And once you understand the actual biology, you will never think about sugar the same way again. Let us start with a number that should genuinely stop you in your tracks. At the beginning of the 20th century, the average American consumed approximately 15 to 17 pounds of added sugar per year, according to historical United States Department of Agriculture records. By the early 2000s, that number had climbed to roughly 150 to 170 pounds per year. That is nearly a tenfold increase in 100 years, and the human body, shaped over hundreds of thousands of years on a diet with virtually no refined sugar at all, has had almost no evolutionary time to adapt to that volume. So what actually happened inside your body when that refined sugar arrives? When you drink a soda or eat a processed snack, the sugar enters your digestive system in a form that has been completely stripped of everything that would normally slow it down. No fiber, no plant cell walls, no water binding, no micronutrients. Glucose floods into your bloodstream rapidly, and your blood sugar rises sharply within 15 to 30 minutes. Your pancreas detects this spike and releases insulin, the hormone responsible for moving glucose out of the blood and into your cells for energy. Under normal circumstances, this is a clean, self-correcting system. But here is where the problem begins. When that spike happens repeatedly, day after day, your cells start to protect themselves. They reduce the number and sensitivity of their insulin receptors, a process researchers call receptor downregulation. Think of it this way. If someone is knocking on your door at full force 10 times a day, every day, eventually you stop answering with the same urgency. Your cells do exactly that. They stop responding as readily to insulin. And this is the biological definition of insulin resistance. Once insulin resistance takes hold, your pancreas has to produce more and more insulin just to achieve the same effect. Blood glucose stays elevated longer than it should. Insulin levels in your blood remain chronically high throughout the day, a state called hyperinsulinemia. And research published across multiple peer-reviewed journals has linked this state directly to increased visceral fat accumulation around internal organs, systemic inflammation, and over years, the progression toward type 2 diabetes. Your mitochondria, the structures inside each cell where glucose is actually converted into adenosine triphosphate, the primary energy molecule your body runs on, take a measurable hit in this environment. Research published in Cell Metabolism has shown that chronic metabolic stress from high refined sugar intake is associated with mitochondrial dysfunction, meaning reduced energy production efficiency, higher oxidative stress, and in some tissues, an actual decline in the number of functional mitochondria per cell. Less efficient mitochondria mean less energy, more cellular damage over time, and a gradual erosion of how well your body performs at its most fundamental level. Now, here's an insight that changes everything. Take that same glucose molecule and put it inside a whole blueberry. Chemically, it is identical to the glucose in refined sugar. Same molecule, same formula. But the biological response your body has to it is categorically different, and the reason is purely structural. A whole blueberry contains soluble fiber, including a compound called pectin, which forms a slow, gel-like matrix in your gut when it contacts water. That gel physically slows the rate at which glucose can cross the intestinal wall and enter your bloodstream. On top of that, the glucose inside the fruit is enclosed within intact plant cell walls that your digestive system has to physically break down first before it can even access the sugar. This process takes time, and that delay completely changes the hormonal response downstream. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition confirmed that the glycemic response to whole fruit is significantly lower than the response to an equal amount of sugar consumed in juice or refined form, even when the total sugar content is identical by weight. The difference is not in the chemistry of the molecule. The difference is entirely in the physical structure surrounding it. And that is only the beginning of what whole berries offer. Blueberries, raspberries, and strawberries are dense with polyphenolic compounds, including a class called anthocyanins. Research from Harvard Medical School and studies published in the journal Circulation have linked regular berry consumption to improved insulin sensitivity, reduced markers of systemic inflammation, and better vascular function. Some of these compounds activate cellular pathways that govern your body's own internal antioxidant enzyme production. The fiber in berries also feeds your gut microbiome, and a substantial and growing body of research now connects gut microbial diversity directly to insulin sensitivity through the production of short-chain fatty acids that modulate metabolic signaling throughout the body. Avocados bring a different but equally important dimension to this conversation. The dominant fat in an avocado is oleic acid, a monounsaturated fatty acid that makes up approximately 60 to 70% of its total fat content. This is the same primary fatty acid in extra virgin olive oil, and it is one of the most extensively researched dietary lipids in the scientific literature. What makes oleic acid so relevant here is what your body actually does with it after absorption. Dietary fatty acids are not just burned for fuel, they are physically incorporated into the phospholipid bilayer that forms your cell membranes, and the composition of those membranes is not fixed. It shifts to reflect the fatty acids you consistently consume over weeks and months. When oleic acid is integrated into your membrane phospholipids, it preserves what researchers call membrane fluidity, meaning the ability of proteins and lipids embedded in the membrane to move, flex, and function properly. This matters directly for insulin sensitivity. Your insulin receptors are proteins embedded in cell membranes. Their ability to bind insulin and transmit that signal into the cell interior depends on the physical environment of the membrane they sit in. Research published in the American Journal of Physiology and the European Journal of Nutrition has associated diets higher in monounsaturated fats like oleic acid with preserved insulin receptor function compared to diets high in saturated or trans fats, which rigidify membranes and impair how well those receptors operate. Avocados also deliver a striking amount of potassium. A single medium avocado contains approximately 900 to 1,000 milligrams, significantly more than the roughly 422 milligrams in a medium banana. Potassium is essential to the electrochemical gradients across cell membranes, particularly in heart muscle cells and neurons. The sodium-potassium adenosine triphosphatase pump, one of the most energy-intensive transport proteins in your entire body, relies on potassium to maintain the resting electrical potential of cells and to support nutrient transport across membranes. Consistent potassium intake supports cardiovascular function at the most foundational cellular level. Here's the broader truth that all of this science points toward. Your body is not a passive container for whatever you put into it. It is a continuously adaptive system that rebuilds its molecular architecture in direct response to the nutritional signals you send it through food consistently. Over days and weeks and months, your insulin receptors, your cell membrane composition, your mitochondrial efficiency, your gut microbial diversity, none of these are permanent fixed features. They are dynamic, and they respond to what you give them. Research following tens of thousands of participants over decades, including the Nurses' Health Study and the Health Professionals Follow-Up Study at Harvard, has consistently found that dietary patterns built around whole fruits, vegetables, and healthy fats are associated with substantially lower rates of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and cognitive decline. The biological mechanisms being uncovered in laboratory and clinical research are now providing clear, specific explanations for exactly why those associations exist. So the practical takeaway is genuinely straightforward. Choosing a bowl of berries over a processed snack, adding avocado to a meal, reducing how often you drink beverages that flood your bloodstream with refined sugar, these are not small or symbolic gestures. They are direct inputs into the molecular machinery of your cells. What you consistently choose to eat is the information your biology uses to decide what to build next. Your body is responding right now to what you fed it today. And the evidence accumulated across decades of rigorous nutritional science points clearly in one direction. Whole, unprocessed foods that deliver their nutrients within an intact natural structure support your cellular systems in ways that no refined alternative can replicate. If you found this valuable and you want to keep building a genuinely deep, evidence-based understanding of your own health, subscribe to this channel. Every video we make is held to the same standard of scientific accuracy because you deserve information you can actually trust.